Hello. Hello, good afternoon. I can't hear anything.
Good afternoon. We're waiting for other people to still enter the room. Please kindly read the chat as well. We're inviting everyone. As we have many countries participating today, you may want to inform us where you're from, what institution you belong to. Also, for those needing interpretation, we will have a technical slide to assist you in going to the interpretation channel. We also invite the interpreter to write in your own languages in the chat how to lead those needing interpretation to your channels. There we have Indonesia already here. We have Indonesia already written yang butuh penerjemahan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Tolong lihat di chat. Terima kasih. Welcome to everyone here from Indonesia, from Cambodia, from Lao PDR, from Vietnam, from Myanmar, thank you to the Vietnamese interpreter for writing the instructions. Good afternoon to all, and also I believe we have people joining us from Europe, so good morning to all of you as well joining us. Oh, good afternoon, Dr. Khairun. Welcome from Malaysia. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sir Jamaluddin from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in Indonesia. And of course, Ms. Bofan from Lao PDR, our speaker today. Thank you for joining us. Nat, would you like to begin with the technical instructions?
Yes. So let's start. So hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Forest Harvest Collective Mark Regional Rattan Standard Workshop. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Natasha Mulyandari. I'm assisting NTFP-EP Asia in Rattan initiatives, and I will be one of your moderator for today. So before we begin, allow me to give you a technical announcement. So please note that we will be recording all of the sessions in the workshops, and we will also be translating the session to several languages as needed. So can you see next slide, please? So we will be translating the session to several languages as needed. If you need a translation, you can click an interpretation button at the bottom of the Zoom window and choose your language. So all participant microphones will be muted. And later on, during the Q&A portion, if you wish to ask a question, please click the raise hand using the participants or reactions feature before asking. And then once the moderator has called you, you can click unmute to start speaking. Next slide, please. You may also use the chat feature to ask your questions. Just type the question in the chat box. And then for questions and other technical issues, please send a private message to NTFP-EP technical account directly in the chat box. So that's for the technical instructions for today's workshop. Now let's start our workshop today. To start this workshop, I would like to invite Ms. Femi Pinto for giving us welcome and opening remarks for this workshop. So she's the Executive Director of NTFP-EP Asia. So everyone, let us give a warm round of applause to Ms. Femi Pinto.
Thank you, Natasha. And from here in Manila, Philippines, good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the Non-Timber Forest Products Exchange Program, a warm welcome to all the participants from the region. We have now 49 participants from at least 6 countries. I heard Chrissy also mention where you are coming from, all coming from. In the ASEAN and the Mekong sub-region, and I also heard that there's someone joining us from Europe. So very much welcome to have you here. And among us are experts, practitioners, researchers, and also Rattan subsector players. So it's really great to have you all here as we develop the Forest Harvest Collective Mark Regional Rattan Standards. I would like to particularly recognize and thank in advance our speakers and resource persons and distinguished participants, particularly from the PGS National Council, Participatory Guarantee Systems National Council in Indonesia, the Department of Forestry DOF from Lao PDR, the Rattan and Bamboo Associations of Cambodia and Myanmar, and also representatives from the academe. I saw some national government institutions and our civil society organization partners, thanking you in advance for your contribution to this important process to develop the Forest Harvest Collective Mark Regional Rattan Standards. I also recognize my colleagues and my colleagues from the NTFP-EP Asia who have been instrumental to organize this workshop and who brought us all together to help build the Forest Harvest Collective Mark, or FHCM, which I believe will be a hallmark in the field of NTFPs. This workshop is part of a process with a vision that by 2025, we would have established the Forest Harvest Association, having ownership of the collective mark, and who by then are beginning to reap the rewards and benefits of a more established market presence with strong credibility along the values, standards, and criteria that it represents of traceability, sustainability, and quality of products, but more importantly, that they will be coming from well-managed, protected, and hopefully also recognized customary or community forests and territories. Initially, we are working on 3 products on wild honey, and now we will be discussing on rattan, and also a 3rd product on ecotextiles. But by then in 2025, we hope we are also drawing more energy and attention and direct action programs on other products too, and that will be fantastic. We began the road to FHCM not really only last year, but many years ago. The experience in rattan started about 10 years. And with our colleagues and partners in Indonesia, some of them are here, who began to devise a mechanism that will address the challenges faced by rattan harvesters and producers to access the market and ease burdens and barriers of expensive schemes, and instead find an alternative that will label their products worthy of a good competitive price in the market and presenting other mark values such as good, sustainable rattan harvest and management practices. These early years and the continuing experience and development of the Participatory Guarantee System and sustainable rattan, or ROLES, you could say, also helped emerge the idea of FHCM. So thank you to our colleagues and partners from Indonesia. And this experience that they started, which we will hear more about later, as well as other interesting and worthwhile experiences from our other resource speakers from Lao PDR, Cambodia, and Vietnam, together in a workshop today, will form a strong basis of the FHCM Regional Rattan Standards. So NTFP-EP is proud to be part of the inception, the pilot, and the process of further development into a full-fledged participatory certification alternative that will be truly beneficial and useful to rattan and NTFP-based enterprises. So wishing us all a fruitful workshop today and tomorrow, and hopefully a long collaboration with all of you for the future of FHCM and the fruition of our vision. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Femi, for your welcome remarks. So before we start our workshops today, I would like to give you an overview about how our 2 days workshop will look like. So on the screen, you can see these are our program for our workshops. For today, we just have our welcome remarks from Ms. Femi Pinto, and then later on, we will start our workshop with the Forest Harvest Collective Mark introduction that will be presenting by Ms. Chrissy Guerrero. After that, we will have a sharing sessions where we will be hearing more about Rattan certification in Laos, Rattan certification in Indonesia, and also about the ASEAN guidelines for NTFPs. We will also be hearing a reaction from Rattan and Bamboo Association of Cambodia. After the Q&A sessions, we will be working in a group in the breakout sessions that we will be working in 3 different groups later, which I will be giving an instruction later on. And then that would be the end of our workshops today. For tomorrow, we will continue the workshops with the recap from today. And then before we start the workshop, we will be having a reaction from Mr. Danang Raditya from IKEA. And then after that, we will have group presentations from our breakout sessions today. After the presentations, we will be having another sharing sessions about the design and institutions and the process of the Forest Harvest Collective Mark. We will be hearing stories and experience about the PGS ROLES work in Indonesia and also PGS work in Vietnam. Following that sharing session, we'll be having a plenary discussions, and then before we close the workshop, we will be also closing the workshop with talking the next steps, and then that would be the end of our workshops. So that's the overview of our workshop program. So now let's move to the first session. So we will start this session. I would like to invite Ms. Chrissy Guerrero. She will give us a presentation about the Forest Harvest Collective Mark. So Chrissy Guerrero, she is the Senior Advisor of NTFP-EP Asia, and she has been leading the Sustainable Climate Adaptive Livelihood Program. So please welcome Ms. Chrissy.
Thank you, Natasha. And good afternoon and good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for deciding to join us this afternoon in working with us to develop standards for the Forest Harvest Collective Mark. We see very many distinguished guests and participants here some we will recognize along the way as well. Thank you all for attending. And as we will also be explaining that this is only the first in a series of activities related around the NTFP being Rattan. Thank you. So we are 10 minutes, the good news, we are 10 minutes ahead of schedule, which means we have more time maybe for our breakout later or for question and answer. So Dina, if you would like to start the slides, or am I starting this? Am I? Will I share that or?
Oh, sorry, Chris, do you want to start with the video maybe before it starts?
Yes, you're right.
Many community-based non-timber forest product enterprises, or CBNEs, have internal processes based on traditional ecological knowledge or community policies and procedures to safeguard sustainable utilization of non-timber forest products or NTFPs. For those with underdeveloped systems, the challenge is to document this knowledge, improve community processes, and to install monitoring mechanisms. Many CBNEs still need upgrading with regards to product safety and product quality. Also, there is a need for community groups to distinguish their products in the market and be able to surpass the tedious third-party certifications. Because of this, the Forest Harvest Collective Mark, or FHCM, was created. The FHCM is a collective mark that aims to highlight the forest source and sustainability of products coming from forestry groups. The label guarantees that the products meet 3 parameters: traceable forest source, sustainability, and good quality. Having the FHCM is beneficial to the communities because it is a mark owned by an association composed of the community enterprises along with their support groups. Therefore, has a customized approach and highlights the distinct values of the group's products. The costs are also relatively lower and are considered long-term investments in their own brand. It is NTFP specific, and processes applied promote stronger local ownership in the process of validation. Lastly, this can pool or combine efforts and limited resources for marketing for stronger impact and better recall at less costs. Our vision by 2025 is to involve more individuals and institutions in the process of establishing a Forest Harvest Association behind the FHCM to make it more inclusive and expand its reach. By 2025, we hope to have established FHCM units at the local and provincial levels in several countries with operational systems in place. With expanding activities, we hope to increase brand recall and also engage more industry players. We are taking the first steps towards our goal by initiating a series of consultations on regional standards on select product categories. Through the FHCM, let's create a community around sustainable, forest, and community-sourced products where all, including the producers, the value chain actors, and the consumers, are engaged and committed.
Thank you, Natasha, for playing our video. In a nutshell, we have shared the aims of this collective mark and our visions and our ambitions across the next years. But it was a quick video, so allow me to share some history and to maybe deepen our understanding about this initiative. So I'll be explaining more about the Forest Harvest Collective Mark, or what we call FHCM. Next slide, please. All right, so this mark, actually, we started thinking about it a long time ago, at first with the product forest honey in mind, not yet rattan sources. We had been organizing several events around forest honey in Asia because we were attending international events, and it seemed that the forest honey of Asia, though very special and very healthy for you, was not given enough recognition. And standards, international standards, were mostly around the Italian or the European bee. So this is why we organized our regional events And we also realized that there was also no certification system that really captured the different values, as mentioned about the bioactive compounds that are found in this special honey. Also, in terms of other categories like hand-woven eco-textiles, aspects about heritage were not recognized in other certification systems. And for Rattan, there were certification systems in forestry, but they were a bit out of reach to many community producers because of the costs involved and the different documentation requirements. So we started in the field of honey in developing this collective mark. This is also the studies behind the collective mark are also done by my colleague Nola Andaya, who is also in the room and who studied this against other options in promoting NTF producer products. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, and with our network of partner producers across Asia, we thought it best that we develop our own Forest Harvest Collective Mark, as was, and not only NTFP, but as an association, and we'll be telling you more about that. And it was also mentioned in a slide. That's also owned by and managed by the producers themselves, along with other stakeholders. This mark would help promote the quality of the products, first forest honey, but then other products, other NTFPs, to help producer groups meet standards, market standards and safety standards. That also would guarantee sustainability, that products are harvested in a sustainable manner, and also traceability in tracing the products back to the source, especially to sustainably managed community forests. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, the Forest Harvest Collective Mark is a collective mark that aims to highlight the forest source and the sustainability of products coming from community forestry groups. They cover all non-timber forest products that are harvested from forests, whether from the wild or in domesticated sources, such as forest gardens. The Forest Harvest Collective Mark is based on Participatory Guarantee Systems, or participatory certification, where we involve stakeholders, different sectors in the process, and we build on local knowledge and peer monitoring and learning. Next slide, please. Yes, so for those who are not yet familiar about collective marks, and what they are made for and why we have chosen this. This is a slide, an important slide. Collective marks are signs used to distinguish certain value characteristics common to the products of the members of an association or cooperative. So these are the standards developed by a group themselves if they see that there's something special about it. Examples are in the Philippines, there's the Tinalak certification for a fiber handloom textile that's developed by the Tiboli people. In Peru, in Latin America, there's a potato cooperative that developed their collective mark because they have a special potato that is grown at a certain elevation, and they have characteristics which are not appreciated in any certification mechanism. So these groups have developed collective marks like we are doing now, but ours is on a different level, as we are implementing this across multiple non-timber forest products. So now to go deeper into collective marks, this is owned as a private entity by the members of the association, who are also responsible in ensuring that members comply with agreed standards. So we're policing each other, and also would develop sanctions for those who are not able to comply with the standards. Secondly, the usage, it's exclusive to the members of the association, who also will be audited to meet the standards and all of the standards that have been developed and can be used with individual marks of members. So members may have already their own brands, which are already strong. And we hope that the Forest Harvest Collective Mark can add value by appearing alongside the existing brands. And what is the function of this collective mark? It distinguishes and promotes the group's products from other simple products, informing the public of particular features. So for forest honey, it can be about certain medicinal properties. For textiles, it can be about the tradition behind them, or it can be about how they're made. And also for rattan, it can also this can be a way for indigenous groups to express how they've been managing rattan gardens for centuries and centuries. So this is the definition of collective marks for you to review. Next slide, please. This is just a bit about our history. So as you can see, we started in 2013. We started thinking about this right after the Participatory Guarantee System ROLES that we'll be presenting later, when they had an event here in Indonesia in 2012. So we thought of starting this on a regional scale, and my colleague Nola had conducted studies on certification systems, and we realized there wasn't one that really fit these NTFPs, and also that already had strong traction in the market. And therefore, we started developing Forest Harvest Collective Mark as a model and the standard specifically for forest honey, with colleagues from Madu Dunia, a collective of groups working on forest honey that regularly meet every 4 years. With the standards approved, this was implemented piloted with a forest honey group on the island of Sumbawa in Indonesia. And several visits were made, and they were allowed to comply with meeting standards, which involved adding various tools and upgrading their processing plant. And finally, they were given they were approved, and they were allowed to use the label in 2020. Unfortunately, it was right before the pandemic started, and therefore it was a bit difficult at that time to really go all out in promoting the mark at the time. So we're hoping that the pandemic is coming to an end and that we can do more in promoting online and offline. That is the history of the mark with regards to forest honey. And we'll tell you more about the other products in the following slides as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the benefits of the collective mark that we have found, that they can be customized and highlight distinct values, as I've shared earlier. And this represents the whole package of the group. Relatively, costs are less. Here is an example for the PGS Rotan Lestari that we'll be presenting later. It's about 1/3 or even less of the cost of other conventional types of certification that already exist in the market. Costs are considered investments in the brand because the owners of the mark themselves are from the producer groups. So in a conventional certification system, you would need to pay auditors, and you would need to and after that audit is done, then that's it, and then you would need to pay again when the certificate expires. So this further costs will be internalized and are considered investments in the brand, and they will promote the association and the products in the long term for the benefit of the association. And since the mark is NTFP specific, it has it doesn't also get lost in other maybe organic or forest or timber certifications that exist. And finally, one main benefit of this collective mark is that it allows the producers to pool and combine efforts so that they are marketing with one label. Whereas if all of them would be marketing with their own labels, it would be quite expensive. The marketing cost would be quite expensive. So we're hoping that this label, this mark can become further known, that credibility can be raised, especially with work in multiple NTFPs, and that this can assist in the marketing of NTFPs and NTFP producer groups. Next slide, please. Yes. So as we shared in the video, we have a great vision that we hope by 2025 we will have an association that is registered. Right now, this Forest Harvest Collective Mark is registered by NTFP. We're just the placeholder. We're just the holder of the mark, while we assist to establish this association, which will be more collectively and inclusively owned by many partners. We hope that we will have multiple standards, and not only the forest honey, but this is why we are here today, so we can start developing the honey standards. And there are already many examples, and we'll be hearing about that later today, which we can draw from. As you see in the emerging organizational chart on the right side, we hope this is an association with the General Assembly, a board, a Secretary General, and then various committees. Standards committee, where there will be regional peer groups per product that can be the ones to lead in developing and updating standards. There will be membership and institutional committees, which will coordinate with national units that will be implementing the audit system behind this mark, and also be the ones to be recruiting new members and also coordinating with those producers or companies that are interested in using this mark. And finally, we also have a marketing committee, so we can promote this collective mark. So we hope by the end of this year, we will have developed the standards for additional product types. And we're upgrading as well, updating as well the standards, the existing standards that we have. We also hope in the road to 2025 that we'll be establishing more national level units and provincial and district level units that also can assist to promote this participatory system, the Forest Harvest Collective Mark, across multiple products. And we're hoping to have more brands certified, and as well hoping to gain more financial stability and brand recall. And we hope that this can be a trademark that can be used in several countries. Thank you. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we hope that you have received our electronic poster that Natasha, that I think my colleague Dina has also circulated with the invitations. Along with the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, we developed this e-poster it's in 4 languages. At that time, the project of the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity was in the Mekong. So we have this in English, in Khmer, in Lao language, as well as in Vietnamese. So please do contact NTFP Technical, that's Dina and Mila, in the chat. In case you don't have this in the language you need, please feel free to ask us and we will provide you with that. So we are working, our targets are to complete within the year 3 product categories and to update them. For honey, apart from the Apis dorsata honey, Apis dorsata species which produces a certain kind of honey, we will be updating those standards and also finalizing the standards for the honey from the Apis cerana, the other Asian bee. And there are discussions just like this one with the peer groups for honey ongoing this month and across the year. For the handwoven eco-textile, last year there were several consultations with groups around the world online, from producer groups to retailers to civil society members. And the first consultation to develop the standards was done in December, and there will be a piloting process later this year in southern Mindanao in the Philippines. I forgot to mention that for honey, we will also be piloting in Vietnam later this year. For Rattan, this is one of the first events that we're having for this year. And we also have a timeline that we shared with you in the concept note and that I will share again with our plans for developing the Rattan standards, organizing the peer group, and finalizing this within the year. Next slide, please. So these are our plans for this year and for next year. We're having several stakeholder consultations. One of our learnings from last year was that certain certification systems need to be approved by government bodies, government institutions. So we were asked to have some meetings with certain government institutions, and we've started, but we still need to conduct some more within this year. We're also doing more consultations with retailers and with the private sector. After the standards development process, we will also be convening the regional peer group, which will be looking more at the nitty-gritty of the standards, helping to refine them, helping us also to identify maybe inspectors, local inspectors from different countries, because this peer group will involve farmers, producer groups, scientists, government representatives, civil society members, all forming one peer expert group per NTFP category type. Piloting and alignment, as mentioned, for honey, we will be piloting in Vietnam, hopefully in 2 provinces. For Rattan, you will hear about the PGS ROLES system, and we hope that we can align their brand and their labeling process with Forest Harvest Collective Mark. And as mentioned, there will be a piloting in Southern Philippines for the handwoven eco-textile. For standards like now, we are working together to develop standards, and for other category types to update the standards that were developed several years ago. And towards the end of the year, we'll be working on institutionalization. I mentioned the interest to develop an association, a multi-stakeholder association, and towards the end of the year, we will start having consultations on that process and developing an operational manual to guide us and building our financial plan. I think I have 1 or 2 slides left before we go to question and answer. May I have the next slide? Oh, that was the last slide. And I finished with 1 minute to go. Thank you very much for listening. Some of you have heard this before, and I apologize if you're hearing this over again. And thank you for those that have patiently listened to the presentation and the video that came before. So we have some time, Nat, right, for some questions?
Yes. So thank you, Chrissy, for the presentations. We are now open for questions or comments. So you can place your questions or comments in the chat box, or you can also use the reactions, click reactions at the bottom of your Zoom window, and click raise hand to ask question directly to our speaker. So you can also type in a chat box, and our interpreters will help also with the translation. So feel free to use any language you be comfortable with. Anyone would like to start a question? So here, okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. We saw some questions coming. So first question for Mr. Chiao is if FHCM acknowledged by EUTR.
Why don't we read 3 of them, and then
yes,
we'll take them.
Then the next question is there any service charge for the certificates? And then the other one, the next question, what are differences between collective mark and brand?
Thank you very much for these very good questions. So I'll just go to respond to them as they appear. So no, the FHCM is not yet acknowledged by EUTR. But that being said, well, these are the things that we're still exploring in the future. But that being said, the models that we've developed at the national level that that we are aligning to for the for example, the PGS ROLES system, which we'll be presenting later. They have just granted a certificate to a European buyer, and also the criteria, indicators, and protocols that are being followed also are using the EU requirements and standard as guide. So later, Mr. Vishnu Charoko will be explaining more about that, and we wish to align with that as well. But we take note of that question. Then the second, is there any service charge for certificates? So the costing looks at various factors. There is, because it's an association, there is like an annual dues. And apart from that, there are costs, of course, to the audit and the preparation. But because the audit usually works with national auditors and local peer inspectors, then the cost is quite relatively reduced, right? So we can provide maybe a breakdown of the other costs, but as mentioned, they're relatively less. What are the differences between collective mark and brand? Well, as mentioned earlier, the collective mark is one that is that is developed by a group, whereas brand, I guess it can be a company that is developing its own brand. So the collective mark can act like a brand, but it has the functions of an association, where the association themselves are the ones that monitor all the producer groups that are members. Whereas a brand maybe is only one company's marketing image that appears. Maybe that is a response for now. Besides 3 products, do you, yes, do you consider for bamboo in the future? Yes, yes. We are also considering additional products. We're also trying to focus on products that right now have a demand, but there's not a way for them to guarantee or to provide credibility to the market. And the ones that we have now are those which have demand, and they're looking to provide credibility, and they're also market actors who are approaching us to find a way so that they can present their products to the market and also have traceability and evidences of sustainability and quality. What procedures interested associations should be done to follow the program? Yes, so we will be developing for the Rattan standards. We are here today to continue to start developing the standards, which will be continued throughout the year. Tomorrow, we will also talk about institutions and processes, because we have models that exist in different countries, and we'd like to make sure that the one we develop is robust and has rigor, because that is what the market is also looking for, but that it will also take into account the practicalities that our producer partners face. So a balance of these aspects will be looked at in developing the procedures specifically for Rattan. So right now, for applying groups for Forest Harvest Collective Mark, applying groups that are seeking this mark for forest honey, we can already do that. We already have a system, we have standards in place, we have auditors and developing the institutions. For the other products, we are in the process, and we hope that the end of the year, we will have finalized our standards, which we know would need upgrading in future years. And this is not uncommon to existing certification processes. And we hope that we can already have the institutions and the procedures in place. So I know many of these questions are coming from the Myanmar rattan and bamboo entrepreneurs. Thank you very much for your excitement with your questions. And we're taking note as well, because this will help us guide which gaps we have as we move forward in the future.
Chrissy, there are still one more question.
Oh, sorry.
I'll answer about are there Forest Harvest Collective Art documents available already for the 3 products? And where can we get the documents? So yeah, for the 3 products, are there any documents already available?
Yes, thank you, Pak Jamaluddin. Yes, so as mentioned, well, we have the documents for the Forest Harvest Collective Mark for honey. We can provide them to you, and we have online some of the experiences of our partners. But yes, for the other products, they're still being developed for this year. And for those interested, we will be sharing as well the dates and the times of the continuing process. You're welcome. Terima kasih udah hadir.
So yes, so many interesting questions. So we can see already that we will be having a very interesting discussions for these 2 days. So no worries, we will still have more sessions to discuss and also breakout session later. So should we continue to the next session? But
maybe just the last for our colleague from WWF Cambodia. We also have many bamboo experts in the room. So maybe we can also connect with them to discuss about bamboo in the future, and to also hear your story and your interest in developing FHCM bamboo standards. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Natasha, for this opportunity.
So yes, thank you again, Chrissy, and thank you for all the questions. Very interesting discussions and questions. We can continue our discussions as we go. And so that's the end of this session. I'll hand over I'll hand over to Chrissy, as she will be moderating the next session. So yes, please, Chrissy.
Hello, it's me again. Okay, but trust we do have many people from many countries who are joining us today and tomorrow. Very warm welcome to those just joining us as well from Vietnam. I see also Miss Ibuan from the Vietnam Farmers Union also joining. Thank you very much. So for our next session, we'd like to, this session is existing models on standards and certification systems that exist for rattan, as well as an ASEAN guideline on NTFP protocols, but focusing on the rattan category type. We hope that this can open our minds as we go to the last session for today, which would be to start brainstorming across several parameters on developing standards for rattan for the Forest Harvest Collective Mark. So for our first speaker for today, we have Ms. Bovan Patchompon. I hope I have pronounced it well. Oh, I'm very happy, Ms. Bovan, who will be our first speaker. Ms. Bovan is the project manager for the Rattan and Bamboo project at WWF Laos since 2012. Also 10 years with us like us, working on Rattan and Rattan certification. The main target of the project is to strengthen the Rattan supply chain in Laos. In the last decade, she has had a lot of experience on certification on Rattan, and we welcome Ms. Bovan to share her experience with us today. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Bovan. The floor is yours. Ms. Bovan, we're not hearing your voice.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
now we can.
Okay. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to join this to share the experience from Laos on the FHC certification. So in fact, the Rattan and Bamboo project, we starting working on the FHC certification since 2010. But now I'd like to present more detail because the project under the WWF Laos, we are working closely with the Department of Forestry. So can you move the slide? So maybe the next slide. So we can discuss about the FHC certification in Laos. I think many people know well about the FHC. So the FHC is the Forest Stewardship Council. It is an international body which they are accredited certification organization. So the goal of the FHC is to promote the environmentally responsible, socially beneficial, and economic viable management of the world forest. So in Laos, we starting introduce the FHC certification in 2005 in implement in the state production forest. In the Kalimantan and Sulawesi. In that time, it was certified in two provinces, and each province have their own certificate. So that's mean single certificate. Sorry. In 2007, the Department of Forestry decided to apply the group certification because the group certification can be reduce the cost and of the auditing or the cost of the assessment, and also increasing the opportunity for the forest land owner or the other to join. Next, please. So this is the sample that we like to show you, the group entity organization in Laos. So the top one is the Department of Forestry, who is holding the FHC certificate, and the PAFO or the Provincial Agriculture and Forestry is the member of the group. Under the provincial is the district. District of Agriculture and Forestry is under the provincial level, and the community is the member. We call the management unit. So next, please. So this is the principle for the FHC. You can see there are a lot of the principle, 10 principles. And if you think, if we see the criteria, there are a lot of the criteria, around 70 criteria. It's quite a lot. Yeah. For Laos, we just developed the interim FHC national standard in 2020. So just only the interim, but we don't have the national standard so far. So next, please. So the role of the Department of Forestry. So the Department of Forestry providing the institutional and technical guidance to the group member through the certificate process. The second thing is support the guideline and concerning the document related to the FHC certification principle and criteria, providing the individual member of the group with the forest management system and also the planning framework and also the policy that are conform to the FHC principle and criteria. Establishing a legal entity that would provide the administrative oversight and monitoring of the certified member, and being the primary contact with the certificate body, and supervise the PAFO, the Provincial Agricultural Forestry Office, as the group member for the annual operation plan and also implementation Rattan management plan. Next, please. So I think there are several things, several roles that Department of Forestry play in this process. As I mentioned already in the last slide. So yeah, Department of Forestry have to compile also on the annual operation plan and annual harvesting plan from the own member. Supervise and also encourage and monitor the forest management authorized by the Department of Forestry also, and also provide the capacity building to the to PAFO, DAFO, and also villager. Set up the internal monitoring program as well, and the record system, the document keeping, and also implementation the management plan based on the FHC standard. At the same time, the Department of the Forestry have to propose also for the new member who interested to join the FHC certification to be the member, and they have the right also to withdraw also the people the member who fail to meet the requirement of the FHC standard also. Next, please. So why Rattan sector is select the FHC certification? So we found that there are many benefits to the local and to the people at the to the private sector also, and also to the government as well. So we see that from the local perspective, we found that there is very relevant and to the traditional practice, especially for the poor people. And the FHC certification in this applying in the Rattan forest can generate the income and for the community, and also the improvement of the livelihood. One thing is the good management also of the forest with the low risk and no initial investment for other plantation, like the plantation of the rubber and cassava and etc. Because the forest is managed well by the community. From the policy perspective, we see that the supporting the national policy to secure the forest cover, and also to promote the SME investment. because the FHC apply not just only for the natural forest, it's apply also for the plantation as well. The promote the sustainable forest management standard. The FHC is one thing that the government plan to promote in for the long-term forest long-term forest conservation. Engage the community also into the forest management for the long-term conservation. And it's also contribute to the poverty reduction and improvement of the village livelihood. The other thing, it's also reduce the negative impact to the forest ecosystem. It's also contribute the achieve of the Millennium Development Goal. The third, from the private sector aspect. So the private sector, the SME, they can access to the sustainable sourcing of the raw materials, and also they can access the niche market. So next, please. So the FHC certified area in Laos. So we starting certify in 4 villages in Kamker district in 2010, and in 2014 we expanded in 2 new villages in Bolikan district, Bolikan Side province. This is the table that we show the detail of the area that we certify in the total around 14,000 hectares. Next, please. Yeah, just show you the map where the FHC certified in Bolikan. In Bolikan district is the Sengsian and Senglu, and in Kamker district is the Pungbatau, Donsat, Supon, and Puntong. Next, please. So for the process of the Rattan FHC certification, so the first phase we call the preparation phase. So we should conducting the feasibility study and the project area defining, and also the stakeholder identify, the community leader, the district, the province, and etc. Institutional arrangement, and also the capacity assessment of the concerning organization, and also the interest of the PAFO, DAFO, and also the community. So we should have also the Rattan management plan and the guideline. We should prepare the forest management plan and the guideline before, and organize a series of the training, like the training on the Rattan forest inventory, Rattan forest management plan, and then operation, sustainable rattan harvesting, KCVF mapping, and management, biodiversity monitoring, and etc. There are many things that we need to train the villager, DAFO, and PAFO staff. And also we developed the record keeping system, the document recording for auditing. Yeah, and before certified, so the DOF in assess the readiness of the FHC certification to assess at the in the field, and also in the document as well. So, and then we submit the request letter to the member, the FHC member who interested to be the member, should submit the letter to DAFO, to PAFO, and and Department of Forestry. And then the third party will conduct the desk audit, desk assessment, and also the field assessment as well. So it's quite long process. So before we getting the approval for the FHC certification, so it take more than 1 year. So it's quite a lot. Next, please. So from the benefit and the impact from the FHC certification. Next, please. So we can see the to the environmental impact. So the map, this is the FHC certified in Sengsian Senglu. Below is the map in 2005 and 2010 and 2014. So we can see the tree cover of the FHC certified is not much changed. We can see even the development of the infrastructure, so it's still keep good condition. Yeah. Next, please. To the economic impact, so we see that the rattan product can access to the international market. So, and we can export to European country in many countries like Switzerland, Sweden, France, and other countries at the regional. From 2011 until 2020. Next, please. Continue to the economic impact. So for the rattan cane, the FHC rattan cane, it's bring the premium price also. It's mean the cost of the rattan cane from 600 kip per can increased to 1,000 kip per can. So it's increase the value of the rattan cane. And the rattan harvesting also is following the management plan. This is also high benefit to the villager and also increase the villager income. And it's contribute also to the rural poverty reduction and negative impact to the forest ecosystem. Next, please. I'd like to show you also what to the economic impact from the rattan basket production. So we can see the benefit sharing. So not just only the villager get the benefit from the rattan production. So it's mean the harvester, the community get the income also. The government also get the income from the collecting the tax and fee, and also the company staff receive also the benefit from this production, and the third party as well. So we can see the benefit. So mostly the villager around 42% is go to the community. Next, please. Next, please. So in case the social impact, so the community, they can work together and it make the more good relationship between the group member by learning and teaching each other. And the family, they get the additional income and they can support the children education. So the people at the village level, they can improve the skill in splitting, rattan processing, and also the weaving as well to meet the demand of the market. So in some village group member, become to the weaver trainer also, weaving trainer also. After the training, they have good capacity and able to transfer the knowledge to the other villager. Next, please. So to the private sector. So the private sector who will produce or the who will source the rattan cane from the FSC certified area should certify the company should certify the FSC COC as well. So so the company, they have opportunity to learn how to produce, how to improve the administrative work in to apply the FSC or to sell the FSC rattan product. The other thing, they can use the FSC trademark also and able to access to mostly to the European country, European market. So next, please. The challenge so far that we found that there are many challenges for the community or for the staff at the district level. So so far we don't have the national FSC standard, so some international standards are not suitable for the Lao context. We have only the interim national standard, but there is a lot of the principle and also the criteria as well that we need to comply. High cost of the third party in assessment and also an audit for the FSC at the forest and also the FSC COC as well at the company. It's quite heavily paperwork for the preparation for the auditing. And the return of the rattan product could not cover the audit fee due to the value of the rattan is not high like the timber product. So the FSC certification in Laos is because during this period is the support by the project, and the other point it's support by the Department of Forestry. The other challenge, it's quite very strict international quality standard checked by international inspector. And the FSC market are mostly in European country, but in other countries it's not yet required to the FSC. Next, please. Next, please. Hello. Hello, next. Yeah. So I have few recommendations because we know that FSC certification is well known by European market and is responsible to the environmental, social, and economic aspect. But the country have to develop the national standard. For the development of the national standard, is need also some expert to help us to develop it. And the auditor at the we don't have the local auditor, so in case we have the local auditor, it would be good and the cost will be reduced a lot. So that is only two recommendations from us. Yeah. I think this slide is the last slide from me. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bovan, for the very comprehensive and detailed presentation. We learned a lot about your experience at the policy level, at the implementation level, and also your challenges and your recommendations for the future. You can see that there are already so many questions for you, and we will get back to you. You can start reading to prepare the response. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Bovan. So we do have two more speakers. One is actually for the next one. So we move on from Laos. Thank you. And now we move to Indonesia. Many questions as well about the Indonesian model. And so we look forward to the presentations now. We actually have two colleagues from Indonesia who will be presenting. One of our colleagues is in the field, so he pre-recorded his message. And while the other one is here with us today. So allow me to introduce them together. The first presenter is Mr. Rasdi Wangsa. He is the National Coordinator of the Indonesian Traditional Wisdom Network, or JKTI, Jaringan Kearifan Tradisional Indonesia, since 1999. He is also presenting as the head of the National Council for PGS ROLES in Indonesia. His background is in organic agriculture, and he established organic agriculture PGS schemes with the Indonesian Organic Alliance, or AOI. He is active to promote the PGS scheme in Indonesia, and he's also has been developing the PGS ROLES system since 2012. His background is in organic agriculture, community and intellectual property rights, and he's very interested when he can travel to the community and learn from them. So let's listen to the recording for Pak Rasti.
Hello everybody, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rasdi Wangsa. I am from the PGS ROLES Indonesia. May I introduce the PGS ROLES Indonesia? What is the PGS ROLES? The PGS ROLES Indonesia is one initiative that's starting from 2012 in one workshop in Bogor. The participant coming from the some organization, non-timber forest product exchange program Indonesia, Setara, Lembaga Ecolabel Indonesia, Indonesian Organic Alliance, and the representative of the Ministry of the Environment and Forestry in Indonesia, and the representative of the Rattan farmer from the Sulawesi Island and Kalimantan Island. And this workshop have a result of the commitment of the participants to make or set up the Rattan certification scheme, and we agreed to call the initiative as PGS ROLES. Why this initiative important for us? Because by this scheme we can support the small rattans for farmer to access their market, their consumer by the scheme. Because if we talking about the third-party certification, in my experience and in my experience in organic is the scheme third-party certification scheme is very complex for the small farmer and also very expensive. That's why the PGS ROLES is the pathway of the small farmers to access the market. And for us, because by this scheme we can support, but we just still try to discuss, to learning from other parties, other person, and I think learning from all of you in this meeting. I hope this initiative, the PGS ROLES, moving forward to more better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Rasli, who is in the field right now, so not able to join us, but he kindly made a pre-recording. So he just shared with us the initial stage and the reason importance of the PGS ROLES. The short message will be continued with a presentation by his colleague, Vishnu Charoko. Allow me to introduce Vishnu. Vishnu is working as a consultant for various sustainable natural resource-based economic development programs in Indonesia on various issues, including social forestry, sustainable landscapes, heat management, NTFPs, supply chain development, and others. Previously, he served as well as the focal point for NTFP-EP Indonesia, and at that time developed a fairer trade system for Rattan farmers upstream and artisans in the downstream. Previously, he also served as the Secretary General of the Fair Trade Forum Indonesia, or FFTI, including developing fair trade standards for several commodities in Indonesia, including rattan handicrafts. He has developed the NTFP standard for the Indonesian Eco-Labeling Institute, and now he is still officially registered as an auditor for the Timber Legality Verification System in Indonesia, or SBLK. So I invite Mr. Vishnu Charoko to share his presentation. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lizzie. Hello, everybody. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Bu Femi. Yes, you can see this is our logo certification. Actually, there are 3 groups in here: the white background, the green background, and the black background. It's mean the certification that we apply to our system. This is white mean low level, green mean medium, and black mean high level. So this is, maybe I can tell you the story about why we choose this certification for our roles certification system. So please next. So I will give you a brief introduction about the difference between PGS and third-party certification, such as the FHC and other third-party certification. Pak Jamaluddin mentioned that in the chat book that the FHC becomes burden or obstacle in SMEs development in Indonesia, and this is quite true, I think. So that's why we promote the PGS, or Participatory Guarantee System, that is firstly relatively lower cost rather than the third-party certification. And then we have a more simple documented management system and procedure. And then we have also more simple mechanism to compliant verifications. And last but not least, the PGS is always participatory. So what is the meaning of participatory? Participatory means it is horizontally rather than vertically. So we encourage active participation from every actor along the supply chain of Rattan. And then each actor along the supply chain share the same vision. And then every norm, every standard, every principle is conceived by all the stakeholders, including the actor in the supply chain, the government, and other supporters such as the NGOs, the community groups, and etc. And also we develop a learning process. This learning process is the reason why we applied the stratification in all certification from low, medium, and high. Next, please. So let me give you a brief story about the usual supply chain happen in Indonesia. So this is very long supply chain, usually consists more than 6 or 7 actors, but sometimes the actor middleman 1, middle 2 can join together. So at least there are 5 to 7 actors around the supply chain. This is the reality that we face in the field during our intervention in PGS. So next, please. This is our intervention. Please, next. So we try to cut off the supply chain into 2 or 3 actors only. Yeah. So the left side, we call it the producer. The producer means maybe the rattan farmer or what rattan collector create group, join with the village middleman. So this is we define as a producer. And then in the downstream, there is a manufacturer and raw material processor. Sometimes we try to create group between the raw material processor and manufacturer. So from this scheme, you can see there is only 2 actors along the supply chain from 7 actors in the usual supply chain of Rattan in Indonesia. But sometimes there are 3 actors, so maybe only 2 to 3 actors in the roles models. So we have a 3 standard for this. Firstly, the standard for producer. We have already used this standard to various communities in Indonesia. And we have a COC, like the FHC, COC or supply chain standard for the processor and manufacturer. And last, we have a standard for wholesale and retailer. I give the background rate because we haven't tested it yet. Yeah. So far, we only use these 2 standards, the producer standard and the supply chain standard. Next, please. So this is our FHC side, the principal criteria and indicator. Our criteria and indicator are always based on firstly international agreement, and then national Rattan policy, and then the local best practice. So we split the criteria indicator into 2 documents. Firstly, the self-assessment form, and then the role standard itself. So you can see there are around 6 issues or 6 principles in our document of standard. Firstly, is legality, Rattan must be legal. And then supply chain model, Rattan must be transformed into traceable supply chain. And then we also, there are 3 main issues. The issue of environment or ecology, social issue, and then the issue, economic issue. Yeah. And then the business ethic and indicator, we reveal this principle with the AUTR recognized principle for every commodities in UTR. So we have around 20 criteria. So this is lower than criteria that FHC has. So this is very simple, but it is already cover many issue and criteria need to enter in the European or international markets. Next, please. So this is our mechanism for compliance assessment. That's why we are cheaper than third-party certification. Firstly, we conduct self-assessment. For every client that need to be certified, they must fill this self-assessment. We provide them the self-assessment form. And then there are two alternative way for them to be certified. Firstly, they can use peer review. Peer review is if the farmer group want to be certified, they can be reviewed, but can be reviewed by other farmer that has already been certified. So this is what we call it the peer review. So it can be very cheap because usually the farmer group is neighboring area, or they can audit it by Roles Audit Commission. The Roles Audit Commission located in the local, regional, and national. So it will be cheap for producer if you want to be certified using the local auditor from Roles. And for the quality assurance, the Role Audit Commission can make a review from peer review conducted by other farmer group. So this is the system. And then the result of assessment from peer review or Role Audit Commission will be bring to Roles Council meeting. The Roles Council meeting can be national council meeting, means in Bogor, in Jakarta, or regional council meeting. So it's very close to the producer itself. So the Roles Council meeting will issue the compliance certificates. Okay, next please. So this is our client. We have already 5 clients, and the last two clients, we try to implement our certification on certification. Yeah, but the first 3 clients, we strike to segregation model. We learned that segregation model can be fully implemented while we deal with Rattan industry. This is our lesson learned. I will tell you later.
But Vishnu, just to share, you have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, please. Okay, this is the lesson learned. We can see this is the traditional CBNE model, as NTFP says. When we deal with the traditional CBFE model, our standard is very good. We can use segregation model with good traceability. But while we use it in the Rattan business model, there is a problem here. The standard can be fully applied, especially in the supply chain. Next, please. So why? Because this is the production process. We talk about log or timber is different with rattan. So in rattan industry, there is a process from green rattan to raw material where lot will be bulk and then reloading. So the identity will be changed. So this is very specific to rattan, different than timber. That's why we need a more maybe suitable model for this type of commodities. Next, please. So let me give you comparison. Timber, they can trace it to the tree, yeah. While rattan, we can only trace it to farmer garden. We cannot trace it to the tree. But it's better than palm oil, because palm oil only can be traced to farmer group. Those different commodities will be different COC system. Next, please. So this is our certification and sustainability claim. The sustainability claim reflect the credibility of the claim. So as I mentioned before, we have 3 different certification. Next, please. So firstly, the book and claim. This is transition certification. Only for 2 years. We have the SPP, and then we have credit. So that's why we very appreciate with the learning process. Every client will be encouraged to increase from this one, from low model to middle model to high model. That's why we apply this because we want to encourage every business to support, involved in this sustainable rattan activities. Next, please. So this is the term. The sustainable rattan means verified rattan and certified rattan. So there is a difference. Because rattan is NTFP, everybody says NTFP is sustainable, but it's not 100% true. Yeah. So we call it verified rattan. Verified rattan is guaranteed not using destructive harvesting technique and guaranteed as legal. This is, we call it verified rattan. And then certified rattan, it is audited through peer review or audited by ROLES Commission. This is to make us easier to understand about the supply chain model. Okay, next, please. So this is a simple model about our first level of certification, the NSPP. So the processor, the raw rattan processor and finished product processor not must be certified, but must be verified using the self-assessment. But there is a farmer group that has been certified. So we means the certification is also an empowered tool. Yeah, not only a document, it is an empowered tool. How we can use this certified farmer group into a better market. This is the NSPP. And then next, please. This is the credit system where the finished product processor not yet certified, but we want them to involve into this sustainable rattan movement by buying certified rattan from farmer group and certified raw rattan processor that is already been certified, and they use the mass balance credit system. If they buy 50% certified rattan and 50% non-certified rattan, so they only claim half of their product as a certified only. This is the credit system. Next, please. And this is the mass balance one. There is no physically segregation in here, but by document, we can trace that how much the rattan is certified and how much the rattan is not certified. And we need, there is more than 50% of rattan must be certified so they can use this logo. And the next, please. Next. And this is the mass balance too. there is the difference with mass balance one is there is a segregation in raw Rattan processor, but the result is similar with the mass balance one, that more than 50% of Rattan product came from certified Rattan. So they are mixed between the certified and non-certified Rattan, but it can be proved by document. Next, please. And this is the segregation model. We have segregation one, bulk model. Bulk model means there is segregation between certified Rattan and non-certified Rattan, but there is no segregation between certified Rattan and other certified Rattan from various sources. So the product must 100% contain certified Rattan, but not identity preserved, because from various garden, various certified farmer group mixed together.
But Vishnu, if you can wrap up, please. Your time is
Okay.
over. Thank you.
Okay. Minute. And this is the segregation percentage. Yeah. This is the identity preserved model, but not 100% product came from certified Rattan, but there is a segregation. There is identity preserved that claim the highest level of credibility in sustainability. And then the last one is, please. This is the strike model where there is identity preserved, there is a segregation in its processor, and there is identity preserved around the supply chain, so the product can be 100% certified while the identity is preserved. So we can trace back the product from the finished product to the farmer garden. So this is a brief about our work. Thank you, Rishi.
Thank you very much, Vishnu. As you can see, Vishnu is explaining how the system is responding to additional clients and the several stages, and how different private sector actors can move from a lower level of compliance to a higher level of compliance, and the timeline that is necessary to before moving on to the next step. So thank you very much. And we already have some questions in the chat, and please do continue to have more questions coming our way. And our last speaker for this session is who will be speaking on the ASEAN guidelines for sustainable harvest and management of NTFPs, but specifically on the Rattan guideline. But I just like to recognize those who are in the Zoom who helped to develop these protocols, these protocols, ASEAN guidelines for sustainable harvest and management of NTFPs protocols. So just to recognize them in the room before we invite Diana to present, we have here Pak Jamaluddin from Indonesia, Dr. Nguyen Quoc Dong from Vietnam, Dr. Muhammad Khairun from Malaysia, Mr. Bansa from Laos, and Ing Hort from Cambodia. So we have the many with us today who were responsible as well for developing these ASEAN guidelines jointly with us and other experts in the field. Thank you for joining us today again. So we introduced Diana. Diana is the program officer at NTFP-EP Asia. Her background is in anthropology and development work. She handles the program on community-based conservation and indigenous food and health. She will be making the presentation focusing on the Rattan category. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Diana,
Christie.
the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So let me share my screen. I hope it is visible now. So hello again and good afternoon to everyone. I am Diana from NTFP-EP Asia and happy to give an overview of the ASEAN guidelines for NTFPs. Like what Ms. Chrissy shared, I am happy to see that joining us today are some of the experts who were present with us during the consultations. So let me start by presenting an outline of what will be discussed today. So first, I will give the context on how the document came about and why a guideline was deemed important at the time. And then we'll briefly discuss the ASEAN guidelines, which actually have 5 NTFPs. But of course, for today, we'll be focusing on the protocols for Rattan. And then lastly, we'll end with the recommendations that were included in the ASEAN guidelines. To recall, the ASEAN Economic Community envisions ASEAN as a single market and production base where companies and community enterprises are globally competitive. And so standardization is seen as a necessary step so that small and large companies alike are able to meet the minimum standards for product requirements of the buyers and also the consumers. So why develop a guideline for NTFPs specifically? It's because the protocols for sustainable harvest and management of NTFPs are crucial in meeting quality standards. Further, there is increasing demand lately for proof of sustainability and conservation, as what was shown in the presentations earlier. So in 2019, NTFP-EP Asia completed a gap analysis on NTFP standards in ASEAN, and that study revealed the important connection among sustainable harvest, quality of NTFP products, and the sustainable management of NTFPs. It also revealed that there are no quality standards yet for NTFPs or for sustainable resource management for that matter. And so the ASEAN Working Group on Forest Products Development tasked NTFP-EP to lead a consultative process so that guidelines for sustainable harvest and resource management of important NTFPs can be developed. And so you see here in the pictures the workshops that were conducted in 2019 in Vietnam and in 2020 in Bogor, focusing on 5 important NTFPs. These are honey, fruits, resin, rattan, and bamboo. And then in 2021, during the pandemic, we still got busy virtually. So in 2020, there was a virtual meeting wherein the ASEAN ministers on agriculture and forestry eventually adopted the ASEAN guidelines for NTFPs. And then in 2021, there was a CBNE Forest Harvest Forum where the ASEAN Secretariat and NTFP-EP co-presented the guidelines on NTFP sustainable harvest protocols as shown here in the photos on the slide. So a good feature of the ASEAN guidelines is that it uses a socio-ecological framework, which means that it looks at both the human use aspect and biodiversity and how it interrelates. So it also incorporates scientific and experiential knowledge, which looks at the different factors affecting sustainability. The objectives of the guidelines are threefold. First is to, of course, promote awareness on the value of sustainable resource management practices. Second, it's to also inform and guide the formulation of policies and programs by ASEAN member states and other institutions in the region with regard to sustainable management of NTFPs. And then lastly, it also aimed to enhance partnerships and cooperation among stakeholders in the ASEAN community through the establishment of a common reference that we can all refer to. And so as a start, I mentioned 5 NTFPs were covered, and the guidelines are meant to be the primary reference to assist member states in developing their own protocols and monitoring activities to achieve sustainable NTFP management. So of course, for this workshop, our focus will be on the protocols developed for Rattan. We can share the full text later on for those interested in reading and having a copy of the full ASEAN guidelines. So now let's take a look at some of the protocols for sustainable rattan harvest that are included in the ASEAN guidelines. So on this slide are shown the different thumb rules, which are practical protocols identified by the experts, which are based also on their experience and practices. So you can think of it as the do's and don'ts of when you are harvesting rattan. So let's start first with the do's. These are some of the thumb rules that came up. First is we should respect local customs and rituals related to rattan harvesting. Another one identified was cleaning the leaf litter, including twigs or grasses that are covering the shoots so that the shoots are exposed to sunlight and can grow better. And then it was also mentioned that one must chop the leaves and the sheaths after harvest and then place these on the clumps. Another do identified was it was best practice to harvest during the dry season because during that season, the stems tend to dry quickly. However, if rainy season harvesting is done, another thumb rule identified was that the stumps of the cut stems should be covered to prevent water from entering the plant. Another do is to, of course, use the appropriate tools and always observe safety when harvesting the rattan. You should also be transparent with information about the supply chain and having local groups or people's organizations and also national associations with rules and regulations helps in ensuring proper harvesting, management, and monitoring. And then as for the don'ts, here are some that were identified across the region. So first, do not cut the support trees. What you can do instead is to climb or use tools to cut and pull the rattan. Another is to not to damage the rattan clumps because these are very important for breeding. Don't also damage the seedlings and do not harvest rattan canes that are fruiting in low density areas. Actually, there are more thumb rules identified in the guidelines, but in the interest of time, I just placed some which highlight sustainability. And perhaps as you hear this, you are also starting to think of your own thumb rules that you may know. And later on during the breakout sessions, I think there will be a chance for us to exchange notes and add inputs on how to ensure sustainability for rattan. Also included in the ASEAN guidelines are discussions on the socio-ecological indicators to ensure the sustainability and the quality of rattan. So for the ecological factors, here are some of the key indicators that were identified. So from Indonesia, they mentioned that it would be good to observe the number of plant and animal species in the different rattan gardens, and then to take note of invasive species and herbivores that may damage the rattan gardens. Next, 30 to 50% ideal canopy for growth of rattan is observed in Vietnam as the ideal conditions for its growth. And then rattans are usually found in forest areas with high humidity, in secondary forests, shrubs, and where there are available support trees for the climbing rattan. One must also check if the soil conditions and the location of sites for cultivation are proper. In terms of the aspect of harvest, here are some of the indicators identified. So first, are there rattan reserves identified by the community? Do they harvest less than 80% of the harvestable rattan? And then how do you know that the rattan is ready for harvest? So some of the experts shared that the leaves actually turn yellow and they dry up. Most petals of the lower leaves have fallen off, are blackish brown in color, and usually scattered under the stem. And then the part of the stem which has been opened is dark green. And for rainy season harvesting, it would be good to cover the stumps of the cut stems to prevent water from entering the plant. And then another one identified was that there should be lesser exploitation of rattan in areas that are steep or in eroded riverbanks. And then lastly, protect support trees for rattan to climb on when they are growing longer.
Diana, you have 5 minutes more.
Thank you, Ms. Chrissy. So this is the third socio-ecological indicator. We also look at the trade and marketing side or aspects. So what is good to note here is to check if there is a standard system that has been set by the local groups and if this is readily available. Next is to check if there is available and transparent information sharing within the value chain. And then lastly, are there market or regulatory incentives for the sustainable management of rattan? We also look into the different institutions that are present in the area. So you should also check, is participatory planning and assessment being done, as well as participatory regulation development. Another indicator is the harvest records, of course, and the presence of rattan management plans to ensure that there is a good feedback mechanism or coordination and synergies among the different stakeholders. And finally, for the fifth socio-ecological indicator factor, we also should look into the different policies and regulations that affect sustainable harvest and the quality of rattan. So what are the different policies in place present that actually protect the rattan gardens and forests? Is community participation present in rattan harvesting? And then there was also mentioned that the current ban on rattan export policies is being reviewed. And of course, one should also monitor the various policies affecting rattan, such as on tenure, trade and export, and the like. And then for the last slide, maybe I'll end with some of the key recommendations that were also outlined in the ASEAN guidelines. So one would be, and this is also mentioned earlier by the previous speakers, is to the idea of shortening the supply chain and having local rattan manufacturing industries to increase incentives to farmers for sustainable harvest. Another recommendation that came up is to develop a rattan development strategy so as to guide the development of the industry across the sectors. Third is to seek political support, both at the local and national levels, to stimulate the rattan farmers to keep and manage the rattan gardens and also to keep on protecting their forests. Fourth one is to study how policies can be more enabling. For example, there were many suggestions that perhaps some policies can be removed or relaxed, especially those that tend to lower the farm gate prices of the harvested rattan. And then this is an interesting recommendation, the encouragement of having rattan gardens for city green spaces. And then finally, the call to continuously strengthen forests and protect these for the growing of rattan and of course for the people who are dependent on the rattans and other NTFPs for their livelihoods and subsistence. And so with this slide, I end with the overview for the ASEAN guidelines and thank you for your attention. I can share later on in the chat box the link to the different documents pertaining to the full text of the guidelines. So I now hand over back to you, Ms. Chrissy and Natasha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. And thank you to all the experts in the room as well who worked on developing these ASEAN guidelines on sustainable management, harvest, and NTFP protocols. Thank you. We have many questions in the chat, but we heard from an ASEAN example on NTFP sustainable harvest and management. We heard an Indonesian, and we heard an example from Lao PDR as well. So we thought it best maybe that we also listen initially from a reaction from Cambodia, another ASEAN country that's with us today, from the Rattan and Bamboo Association of Cambodia. So we have Miss Kea. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We'd like to invite you to share your reactions, your thoughts, especially coming from Cambodia. We would like to listen intently to what you have to say. Thank you very much.
Yes.
The floor
Thank
is
you.
yours.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I'm really impressed to see the sharing from the Laos, from the Indonesia, and also especially for the ASEAN guideline for NTFP. So on behalf of the Rattan and Bamboo Association in Cambodia, we really impressed for their achievement. And I hope that in Cambodia, we also achieve this goal also. And I'm really glad if the ASEAN guideline can share to us, and we want to improve our rattan and bamboo in Cambodia also to get, like a certification about our product, and from the forest to the fabrication, go to the product, and also to finally the waste also. So we would like to learn a lot from them, and also we want to learn more about the NTFP. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keo Konkea, for your responses. We hope there will be opportunities to learn as well about your experience in Cambodia, and that you can also contribute to the development of our standards and make sure that it's also applicable and useful for the rattan gatherers and their association in Cambodia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. So now we would like to start giving the floor to the speakers to start responding to the many questions we have in the chat. We actually have some answers already in the chat, but let's take them out into the discussion. We only have, I think, about 12 minutes, so let's see what we can do in responding in a short time. We have several questions for the first and the second speaker. For this first speaker, for Ms. Bofan, are you here? Yes, okay. The first questions I'll share for you, and you probably have already been thinking of the answers, and then the questions for our colleagues in the PGS ROLES system. So we have many questions from our colleague in Cambodia, Mr. Inghort, about rattan being used for food, and does that have any impact on the rattan and the rattan that's being certified? Also, who pays for the certification? Is it the community, WWF, or Department of Forestry? And how much is the % increase when products are certified using the FSC system? And the final one is it possible to come up with a common standard? It says SFC, but I'm thinking maybe Inghort meant FSC. And then presenting this as well to the ASEAN level. So these are the questions. Oh, and also one more from Myanmar. Considering that Laos is a landlocked country, is FSC required and feasible? Thank you, Ms. Bofan.
Thank you for your question. May I go one by one? Regarding to the fee of the FSC certification, so our project is working closely with the Department of Forestry, and Department of Forestry is the certificate holder and also responsible to pay the fee. I don't know how much because I didn't pay by ourselves. I think DOF is working closely with support project, and support project is the project that support the government in promoting the FSC certification in Laos. The second question about rattan shoot, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
we know that the Lao people consume the rattan shoot, yeah, and at the same time the project promote the villager also to grow the rattan shoot for self-consumption, and not allowed to collect the rattan shoot in the forest that we have the harvesting plan and management plan already, so they can use that. They can consume, collect the rattan shoot for self-consumption and also for selling also from their own garden. So this is our project promote them also at the same time. So Lao is landlocked. Yes, that's right. But yeah, we know that landlocked is quite difficult for the logistic. The logistic issue is quite high cost. We know that the European country is interested to buy the FHC rattan product to compare with the non-FHC. In case the FHC is the double and triple price of the non-FHC, the European country buyers is acceptable. So that's why we can export the rattan product to European country. What else? What question that I not yet reply?
What is it possible to develop one common standard on rattan to present to FSC and also to ASEAN? I hope I got the question correct. I'm not sure if you're the person to respond, but that maybe you know if it's possible or if there's any initiative.
In fact, if we're talking about the standard, as I mentioned in my presentation already, that in each country they should adapt the standard to their own country context. Yeah, because each country have the different policy, like the land right policy. So some the rattan forest in Laos mostly is belong to the government, to the state. So it's not belong to the community. So in this case, we could not show the auditor that the land is belong to the village. So in this case, we need to adapt also somehow the policy. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bofan, for your responses to the many questions. We go then to the questions from our Indonesian presenters, and these are to Mr. Safir of Imunitas in Central Sulawesi. He was asking, are there any strategies to assist rattan gatherers, rattan farmers in marketing the rattan products? That's the first one. And the second one is there is a lot of purchasing of unsustainable rattan going on, and buyers who are buying unsustainably produced rattan. Is there any strategy to influence those buyers so that they are more interested in buying sustainable rattan? So maybe Vishnu and others who are in the room can also respond to this.
Ya, saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja, Krisi ya. Jadi
okay, tunggu sebentar. All right, so Pak Vishnu will speak in Bahasa Indonesia. So for those wishing to listen in English, please go to the interpretation button and go to English. Thank you very much.
Ya, memang kalau kita lihat sebagian besar rotan yang keluar dari Indonesia, baik dalam sekarang dalam bentuk finish product ya, itu memang tidak tersertifikasi. Apakah bisa kita bilang itu unsustainable juga sebenarnya belum tentu, gitu kan? Tapi kan jaminan sustainable-nya belum ada. Makanya memang kalau bicara strategi ya, strategi bagaimana supaya perusahaan-perusahaan tersebut berhenti mengeksploitasi rotan, ya harus jangan beli produknya, nama juga perusahaan jualan, itu seperti itu. Nah, PGS ROLES ini sebenarnya tools ya, alat pertama selain untuk pemberdayaan petani atau pengumpul rotan di hulu juga sebagai alat masuk ke pasar, entry strategis ya, strategi untuk masuk ke pasar sepanjang sertifikasi jaminan ini bisa terjangkau untuk produsen kecil. Itu kan yang jadi persoalan. Selama ini yang kita lihat jaminan masuk ke pasar dalam bentuk sertifikasi justru sangat mahal dan sangat kompleks. Itu yang terjadi. Makanya ROLES ini hadir. Perkara mungkin dinamo belum terlalu baik ya. Itu proses. Kita memang sedang berupaya untuk bagaimana sertifikasi ROLES ini bisa diterima di pasar, terutama di Amerika dan Eropa sebagai pasar, salah satu pasar rotan terbesar ya, selain ke negara-negara Asia lainnya tentunya. Nah, untuk kepentingan itu memang dalam waktu dekat kita akan launching skema ini di Eropa, launching perkenalan bahwa kita punya PGS ROLES dan kita punya model-model yang sudah kita kembangkan, termasuk model di Namo, model di Kalimantan Selatan, di Sulawesi Tengah, dan terakhir model di Kalimantan Tengah yang kita sudah kerjasama dengan perusahaan Belanda. Nah, ini memang kasusnya cukup baik yang terakhir. Kenapa? Karena dengan intervensi ROLES paling tidak ya selama ini dengan Belanda ini kita bisa meningkatkan harga sampai sekitar 20% dari harga pasaran rotan. Walaupun ada konsekuensinya, petani harus membuat catatan panen, catatan produksi seperti itu. Jadi ada perbedaan pengelolaan rotan di level hulu dengan kompensasi peningkatan harga. Seberapa banyak peningkatan harga seharusnya ya ini sangat relatif ya. Kalau kita bicara fair trade, misalnya dalam skema fair trade dalam bentuk premium price, memang sangat tergantung komoditasnya antara 10 sampai 40%. Nah, kita masih mencoba formula yang pas untuk itu. Dan harapan kita dalam waktu dekat akan banyak perusahaan-perusahaan baik lokal ya kan, lokal perusahaan maupun pembeli di Eropa yang mau terlibat dalam gerakan ini. Saya rasa itu ya tambahan dari saya untuk pertanyaan Mas Safil ya. Jadi kita coba berikan alternatif jaminan yang berbeda dengan jaminan pihak ketiga yang selama ini ada di Indonesia dengan harapan semua pihak termasuk produsen kecil bisa terlibat di dalamnya. Kira-kira begitu, Bu Krisi.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Pak Wisnu, for responding. And just to share again, so that the PGS ROLES can be an instrument towards empowerment and improved economic condition, but it's not the only thing. And to stress that the PGS ROLES will be launched globally next week, March 31. So please, for those who are interested as well to join, please inform us so we can share with you the link, but it's mostly to launch it in Europe and also with international media. I thought so. Did Pak Safir have another question or no? Anyway, maybe Pak Safir kalau ada pertanyaan lagi tolong ditulis ya karena sulit saya lihat ada 52 orang. Okay, thank you very much. And then well, we also had Pak Jamaluddin also speaking in the chat about the classic problem of the gap between those in the forest areas and those in the downstream, where in Indonesia in particular, there's a lot of rattan still in the forest, and then there's the industry who's trying to get it. So some solutions have been shared today. There are also some policy considerations that need to be reviewed and looked at. We can also share a link to a recent film made on Indonesian policies of rattan that can also help in our reflection. So because we still have a I hope I was able to get to most of the questions that were in the chat. And oh yes, I think there is one more from the business. Rattan, sorry, let me try to get to it. Something about how to check the difference between rattan plantation and rattan in natural forest. I think it was asked also by our colleagues from Myanmar. Maybe I think it was addressed to Ms. Buafan. I'm wondering, Ms. Buafan, if you have a response to that, if you can to place it in the chat as we need to move on to our next segment of the program soon. But I see Pak Safir's hand up again. Ada yang mau disampaikan Pak Safir, atau itu pertanyaan yang tadi?
Ya, Mbak, gimana?
Silakan. Iya, tapi ya terakhir karena kita juga
baik,
mau.
Mbak, baik.
Silakan.
Baik, terima kasih ya. Saya hanya mau menyampaikan beberapa informasi. Ya.
Sebentar. Those wanting to hear in English, please go to English interpretation. Silakan. Silakan Pak Safir.
Baik, terima kasih Mbak. Saat ini di wilayah khususnya Desa Namo dan semua desa yang berdampingan langsung dengan wilayah Taman Nasional, itu di pasca bencana harga rotan 1.800 semua rata gitu. Entah jenis apapun 1.800 rupiah harganya per 1 kilo. Nah kemudian untuk menutupi gap pasca bencana terkait kebutuhan pembiayaan ekonomi masyarakat, maka keluarlah statement dari wilayah pengelola Taman Nasional bahwa boleh mengambil di wilayah Taman Nasional yang awalnya tidak boleh begitu, karena mau menutupi gap terkait ekonomi pasca bencana kemarin. Nah kemudian melewati pasca bencana ini, statement itu berubah bahwa tidak boleh mengambil tapi tidak boleh menebang pohon. Nah, saat tidak boleh menebang pohon ini, kemudian masyarakat sudah terlanjur terbuai dengan mengambil rotan pasca bencana kemarin. Jadi tidak ada lagi yang bisa memastikan apakah proses pengambilannya masih lestari atau tidak, begitu. Nah, sekarang ini para tengkulak tingkat lokal ini dibiayai oleh para perusahaan untuk membeli rotan di tingkat desa. Jadi rantainya jalan terus. Ya sama kalau seperti saya terima kasih dengan Pak Wisnu Caroko tadi. Memang penjelasannya baik begitu. Saya berterima kasih ada penjelasan itu. Saya hanya ingin menambahkan penjelasan dari Pak Wisnu tadi. Mungkin seperti itu, Mbak. Terima kasih. Mohon maaf kalau saya mengambil waktu lagi.
Terima kasih, Pak Safir. Ya, semoga kita bisa cari solusi juga dengan pemerintah daerah. Ada juga Pak Jamal di sini dari KLHK. Dan seperti yang Pak Wisnu bilang tadi, bahwa kita mau launching global PGS ROLES ini. Semoga yang terjadi juga di Kalimantan Tengah, bahwa sudah ada buyer yang relatif lebih besar. Semoga ada yang lain yang memang perhatikan isu kelestarian. So, thank you to Pak Safir, and I hope the translations went all very well in both directions. Thank you for all of our speakers, and as well our reactor, and all of the questions in the chat, and those that shared the questions also verbally in the discussion. I'm ending right on time, Natasha, for this part. I'd rather not do a summary since all very fresh and you need enough time for the breakout session. Thank you again, everyone, for the rich discussions that we're having. I hope it will help us in developing our standards, developing our mechanism that can assist farmers in promoting their products that are sustainable, of good quality and traceable. Back to you, Natasha.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you to all speakers. So very interesting discussion. So I think we starting the discussions already. We discussed about the sustainability aspect, about the legality aspects as well. So we are reach our last part of our 2 days program, which is a breakout sessions. So after hearing the informations and stories from our speakers earlier, so we now we are going to have a group discussion. So we will be discussing in a smaller group, and we can continue our discussions. So in this breakout session, we will be we will have a breakout into 3 groups. One group will be discussing more about traceability. The other group will be discussing about sustainability, and the other will discuss more about the quality. May I share my screen? I have the breakout instructions before we going to the breakout room. So please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes. So after this, we are going to a breakout room. So here, all of us, all the participants will work in a group. So there, as mentioned, there will be 3 groups. Group 1 will be talking about traceability and legality. And then group 2 will be talking about sustainability. And then group 3 will be discussing about quality. We can see on the right side of the slide, there are some guide questions for our discussions later in the breakout room. So for group 1, who will be discussing more about traceability and legality, basically there are 2 points that will be discussed. First is about what aspect should be looked at in terms of traceability and legality. And then also what would be the challenges for traceability and legality aspects, and if anyone has suggestions on that. On the other group, group 2, which will be discussing about sustainability, this is also covering lots of aspects as it will be discussing about environment aspects and also social cultural aspects. But yeah, it's also already been mentioned several times earlier in the sharing sessions as well. So for those who are interested to discussing more about the sustainability aspects, please join group 2. The last group is the group 3, which will be discussing about the quality. In this group, the discussions will be more about the quality of Rattan. So some of the guide questions are, what are indicators for a good quality of Rattan? And is there any tools that can be used to check the quality? And if there is any, are these tools are user-friendly? So there are those are 3 groups to choose. So participants please choose your group, which group you would like to join, and then later after this instruction, each group will have 40 minutes to discuss, and then we will be using Jamboard so we can work together. So for later on, I will put the link to our Jamboard later, so we can work together. We can work in the Jamboard together. For those who haven't used Jamboard before, don't worry. It's quite simple. We have our team to assist you, and also there will be a facilitator and co-facilitator in each group later on. And then please also note that the interpreting channel does not work in the breakout room, but we can still accommodate the translation using the chat box. So feel free to use the chat box and use your preference language. And then there will be someone from our team or the interpreters that will be assisting you in translating for you. So again, feel free to use your language. Just type in your languages that will be fine, and then we will assist you in translating. If you are having difficulty navigating your Jamboard, just please place or type and on the Zoom chat box, and our team will assist you. I'll stop my share screen. Here is the link. I'll put the link to the Jamboard.
Will you be sharing an example? Okay, great. Thank you.
I will be putting the link to. So please see your chat box. There is a link to our Jamboard. You can click the link, and then it will direct you to a Jamboard, which we will be working together on that slides. I'll be showing how the Jamboard look like. So So see, there are several pages in the Jamboard, and it has each colors. The orange one is for traceability, green one is for sustainability, and the blue one is for quality. So later, when you are able to join the Jamboard, please go to the pages that you're in, and then here is there is a guide question in the corner of the page. For example, this is for group 1 for traceability and legality. There is this guide question in the left side. For example, what aspects should be looked at? And then here are some notes that we draw this note from existing examples of PGS roles, of the ASEAN guidelines, etc. So we can also always refer to the notes, or we can also put more information. So when to answer the questions, we can use a sticky notes. You can just click a sticky notes right here, and you can choose the colors. You are free to choose the colors, and you can just type your ideas here. And then when you click save, your ideas or your inputs will be there. Like for example, what aspects should be looked at? Then you might want to say, legality is important. Then you can chat, and then there you can put your sticky notes on the board. That's how you put your sticky notes, and then later you can you can go to the other page by clicking this button on the top of your pages. Then you can direct as you want. So maybe that's all for now. And then if you have questions or if you have difficulties, our team will assist you. Just type in the chat box, and we will assist you.
Nat?
Yes.
Yes, maybe we would like to inform the participants that since we do not have simultaneous interpretation in the breakout and we only have one interpreter per language, we had to make a decision to place the interpreter in one of the groups, right? But for Vietnam, because we have also today with us the Vietnam Farmers Union that will be presenting tomorrow on PGS Vietnam, we requested that Ms. Yvonne and your colleagues to be in the traceability group, and the Vietnamese interpreter will also be in that group with you. For the other Vietnamese who do not need any interpretation, you can go in any group you want. We're just clarifying where the Vietnamese interpreter will be. Similarly, the Indonesian interpreters will be in the sustainability group. So for those needing interpretation, the interpreters will be in group 2. The other 2 interpreters should go with those needing interpretation from those countries, and my colleague Mila, NTFP Technical, will also assist that those needing interpretation from Cambodia and Myanmar are found in the same group. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, Chrissy. So, yes. So maybe we can put back the group, the deck for the group, so everyone can remember which group they would like to join. So for group 1, it will be about traceability and legality, and then for group 2, it will be about sustainability, and group 3, it's about quality. Before we go into the breakout room, if there is any question, please.
Maybe. Okay. Is the breakout, it's not yet created, I think. Is Robin creating it? Or was it created? Oh, there, I see.
Okay. So you can see on your screen, you can choose your group and then just click join in the group you would like to join.
And then for everyone to be back here in 40 minutes, in case you have to leave early for any reason, but we hope you don't. But please come back at the same time, 1:30 tomorrow. Our first speaker reactor is IKEA. So we hope that you'll be there also for the beginning tomorrow. So see you in your groups and see you back here in 40 minutes, Yana?
Yes, in 40 minutes.
If anybody is lost, go to NTFP Technical, Mila. Thank you. See you in the groups.
See you in the groups.
So we We came back before we were able to choose a presenter.
Same in group 2.
Same in group 2. So I'm willing to help to organize the Jamboard if somebody else will agree to present. Anybody from group 2? So, we still have a quite considerable number, 41 back here today. So yeah, Natasha, from our group 1, it was very good. We had on the board in three different languages and in the chat in 3 different languages. So that was very interesting and very good that we could have everyone participating in that way. Yes, and hopefully we can identify a presenter for tomorrow. Back to you, Natasha.
Thank you, Chrissy. So everyone already back in the main room? I think we are all, yeah, I think we are all here, 40 of us. So thank you everyone for staying until the end of today. So this breakout session is actually our last agenda for today. Thank you so much for participating in the Jamboard. Tomorrow, we will start again at the same time. So here are to give you a brief overview for tomorrow. So tomorrow we will start our day with a recap, and then we will have a reaction from IKEA. So hope everyone can join on time so we can be joining this session to hear reaction from IKEA. And then there will be a presentation of the group work for tomorrow. So sorry, I think I missed on the agenda. So tomorrow each group will be presenting about the group work from today, and then we will have more discussions about what is being discussed in each group. And tomorrow we will be talking more about institutions and also steps and processes of verification. So we will have sharing session on that matters. So I think that's for today. Chrissy, do you have any addition or before we wrap up for today, before we close for today?
I think, well, Diana is suggesting that we have a group photo. So please stay for the photo. And before that, yes, please do come back tomorrow at 1:30 Jakarta, Vietnam, Laos time, and Cambodia time, and 2:30 Manila time, and 2:30, I think, Malaysia time. Please do identify a presenter because we want to hear the summary of your group discussions. Thank you. So now we will need to close the share screen so that we can do our video, our photo. Thank you for staying on. And could we ask everyone to kindly open their video so we can have the picture. And Dr. Khairun, I know you had your video open just now, so and there you are. And Anna, and from Rattan Bamboo Association in Cambodia, Ms. Kongkea, and also Yayan, Mas Yayan, thank you, welcome. Nyokoko from Myanmar, are you able to open your video? And who else? Who will be taking the videos? Can Diana and Natasha?
Okay, I can.
Okay. You always take the best photos.
Okay, so last chance if anyone else can open their videos. So at the count of 3, I will take the picture. 1, 2, 3. And one more page. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you very
joining
much.
today. We've gone a little bit over time, but many of you have stayed till the end, especially for those in Malaysia and the Philippines. It's now almost 6 o'clock over there. Thank you. So please come back on the same link at the same time. Please come back with others who would like to join us. If you have any comments or suggestions, please do send us messages in the email, in the WhatsApp, and other ways that you have to get in touch with us. Thank you on behalf of NTFP.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.